Hello there. Welcome to another talk. And today's talk, as you know, it's different music today. It's jazz music today. But yeah, this new talk is called "The Unconscious Wounds Must Be Extinguished." And it relates to similar things I've been talking about lately in these podcasts. Because if these unconscious wounds, i.e., desires, because that's what your unconscious wounds are. They're the things that you want when you desire something. Doesn't matter what it is, whether it be drugs, alcohol, sex, other things. All of these things we use to basically soothe the wounds, the unconscious wounds, which exist within the subconscious mind. And when we use these desires that we want, it soothes it and it heals. You see? And because these wounds have to be extinguished, you have to do that. You see? This is why everything is manipulated, excuse me, the way that it is. People are programmed to constantly feel bad about themselves. So come 2:00 in the morning, they're in a fit of depression, feeling suicidal and hoping that they don't wake up in the morning. I know, because I was the same. Before this spiritual awakening path, I was exactly the same. And, I took drugs, alcohol, and don't do any of that now. I take I take supplements now, and real proper medicines. All different types. I mean, quite a lot actually. But that's a better addiction. But these things aren't going to do what alcohol does or drugs do in it. Like if you taking powerful drugs, for example. But it's better for the body, so that you can eventually, with ascension, you can actually get to a higher state than the drugs or alcohol would do, and this is true. And what I'm saying here relates to this talk, because how I got off drugs, alcohol, was this spiritual awakening journey was basically, I don't hear voices. Like my mother's, I'm her registered carer, but years ago she was she done tarot, astrology, numerology, mediumship, transfiguration, and quite a lot of things. And I don't have nearly, the abilities of that, but apart from the spiritual awakening. But one of the things that came from the spiritual awakening, I started to get thought forms, not voices, but it's like your own thoughts, but it's like being downloaded, and where it's coming from is that your higher levels of consciousness. But that's what I get. And that's how I get the information to heal myself. But regarding the wounds, that's how I got off of. That's what I was saying. That's how I got off of alcohol, all the addictions that I had, drugs and other addictions. Is basically just go with what you want. Basically, that's it. That's what the awakening was telling me. That was the thought forms coming in from day one. It was taking me from a place of thinking that I'm a total outcast from society, to being what you are, right? It doesn't matter what it is, just total acceptance of who you are in this present moment, and to do what you want to do. And then after you do this, you let it go. And that's when the wounds have been extinguished. That's why since the awakening 10 years ago, my personality has changed. My own mother doesn't even believe it's the same soul. She believes I went through a soul swap, but I've got a page on soul swapping. But the truth is, you can't have a soul swap because, everything is just has to come from one nothingness, which is infinity of not one nothing is all of infinity. So you can't have a soul swap, really. That's another thing the awakening showed me as well. But back to what I'm talking about, yeah, this healing journey was all about going with what I want. And that's the proper way on how to heal the wounds. Because to extinguish the wounds, you've got to heal them. And that is the easiest way to do it. If you're going against the grain and you're forcing yourself to be a certain way, you're creating more unconscious wounds. You see, this is the thing. This is why the world is the way it is, and everyone's programmed to have a crazy perception, an altered perception of reality, and it's a perception that makes them ill. Right? All these so-called addictions, they're made to feel bad about themselves. And the awakening was all about showing me to just feel good about yourself. Why would you want to feel bad about yourself? Because that's going to cause more unconscious problems. And that's the dictator behind your whole experience. You talk to any psychiatrist, any, person that deals with the mind, hypnotherapy, any of those things, they will tell you that your subconscious mind controls your whole reality. Because everything's just vibrational frequencies. And you attract the same kind of vibrational frequencies that you are. So you attract what you are based on your vibrational frequency. So a nice woman can attract a rapist because she's a totally different person to that, but there'll be something within her vibrational frequency that is tuning into that frequency, like a radio. Like when you turn a radio, and that's what you are. And you might have just a little something within that vibration somewhere that attracts something bad. So to be totally away from the bad, you've got to be absolutely pure. And how to do that is to constantly go within. And within doesn't, it's not just facing the bad parts of yourself, like in depression or meditation, but it's also going with what you want. Right? Listen to that voice that's saying, I want this, I want that, I want the next thing. And once you start, working with that and giving into that, then those things that you want will disappear. And then you enter a holy state. And the holy state is the same state you'll enter if you were to put holy water in your bath, which I do. Not just holy water, lang lang, holy water and Himalayan sea salt. But, the holy state is absolute peace. And that's how in ascension people interact with tantric energy as they evolve. Because the tantric energy, the energy orgasms, there's videos on the internet you can find. And that happens not because some guys came along and done magic healing. That's not true. What's happened is those women in the videos have been on ascension journeys for many years, right? So but it looks like on the video that it's the guy, but if you understand about awakening, ascension, going within, that person, that individual, that female has done a lot of healing, and so anyone can do that. If you start to work within you now, this is what you'll feel, after you start, not that long into it. I didn't know that at the start of my awakening because I didn't know anything about this stuff. My awakening was very traumatic and very forceful, but it didn't have to be that way. Now I'm being shown on the awakening, because my awakening came from me having enough one day. But now I'm being shown, I'm getting these new awakenings lately where it's showing me how pleasure is the quickest way to ascension. And that's why it's demonized. We don't ever hear that. We don't ever hear people telling us to just go with what would make us feel pleasure, because they want you in a delusional state, an erratic delusional state, right? Where you're sitting there depressed, calling everyone else a narcissist, but not realizing that calling others that is narcissistic. You see, they want people crazy. So just let go and start listening to that inner guidance. That's all I did at the age of 24 when I had this spiritual awakening. And then since then, I get awakenings all the time. And I get the big awakenings, that comes around now and again. The big awakenings is when I've dealt with a lot of trauma, but now I've been shown on the spiritual awakening path with the new downloads lately that if you just go with what you want, right, that is the quickest way to do it. You see, you don't have to have a traumatic awakening. But had I not had this traumatic awakening, I wouldn't have knew that. I wouldn't have had the that pathway of waking up like I did, but then having the download about pleasure. So it does, well, it's obvious to me that it's all arranged. Everything is perfect. That there is a divine force that has created everything, and it's already happened. Because it's too perfect for that not to be the case. Like when you awaken, one of the things that happen is everything becomes perfect and synchronistic, like it's happened before, and it has. And so basically, what you're accessing there is the Akashic records, and it's just working within. And so that is the pathway. I keep saying it. Just working within all the time. And listen to that guidance. And that's you on your spiritual awakening path. And so to heal to extinguish these unconscious wounds, it's all about listening to what you want. And then you let it go. This is spoken about in Buddhism with nirvana. A state where absolute stillness and peace. And then when you're doing that, when you're letting go all the time, this is how you return to your core essence, which is unconditional love, just infinite love, like David Icke said. Infinite love is the only truth, everything else is an illusion. But within that love is motherly love, but there's also a tantric, orgasmic love. I'm trying to think of the best way to describe it. Like imagine a perfect romantic relationship. Like in the spiritual community, romance is demonized by a lot of people. But what they don't realize that that's what everything is. There's even pictures you can find on the internet of orgasmic energy, pictures of it, of space, and it exists in space, and it manifests things in life. That's what all life is. Unconditional orgasmic love, and that's what the core essence of what you are is. And that's why they manipulate everything. They want to affect the DNA now, because obviously we get DNA activations when we awaken. So if they can stop that, then you stop the awakening. That's the mentality of the system. But what they don't know is that God's arranged everything, and it's just a movie we're in that's already been and gone. And as Jesus Christ once said, the kingdom of God is within you. I'm just going to leave it there. For latest updates, talks, news, research, songs, and much, much more, please do check my website, at www.lovelightfamily.com. Thank you.